Right, thank you very much. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, welcome everybody. The all set. Hexham TV, thank you. So welcome to Hexham Town Council's full council meeting here at Priors Hall, Hexham Abbey, on Monday the 10th of February 2025 at 6 p.m. So I'm Derek Kennedy, I'm the chair of the meeting. So the first question we have is there anybody from the members of the public who would like to ask any questions? It appears not.
It's cold.
It's cold, no, it appears. So it appears not. So that's that. Any apologies for absence, Mr. Clark?
From Councillor Farrell, Williscroft, Ferris, O'Brien and Sessman.
Thank you so much. Any disclosures of interest? Okay, thank you. Any dispensations? No? Right. Okay, so we're now going to go to item number 7, where we have Joe, who's kindly joined us. And we're going to receive a presentation from Corson Castles Housing Association on a proposed affordable housing development on the Corbridge Road in Hexham. This is a site I've had great interest in and followed for many years. I'll just give some context while Joe gets space there. So the site is the one next to the Hexham Golf Club on the West Road as you head toward the cemetery. That site was previously I believe it was called Princess House, and it used to sell artifacts and things. It then was turned into a second-hand car sales for a number of years. It was then purchased by the county council back in the day, so it was a long time ago, maybe 2007, 2008, something around then, where a fire station was proposed to go. Unfortunately, there was a change in administration at county council, and they moved the fire station from the current floodplain, where the old fire station was, decided not to go to the one they had purchased, but ended up putting the fire station next to Hexham Hospital. So since then, that site has laid dormant for a considerable number of years, and we now invite Jo to tell us what thoughts she has.
So this is a slightly different, this is a different site, I
Yes.
think. This is Corbridge Road.
Well, there you go, nobody told me.
Just to avoid confusion. So I think most councillors are familiar because I've been here before.
Sorry, I was talking about the restaurant on the corner.
Yeah. So this is Corbridge Road. So this is out by Ainic View and opposite sort of the Trivial House scheme, such as I forget the name of the road now, on the other side. But it's on the other side from Mall Country Store. It's right on the edge of the settlement, and it's currently in the local plan as Greenbelt. So last time I came to the town council, we were looking at a 68 unit scheme, and I was considering a kind of quite an innovative approach to independent living. Well, when I say the association that I work for was considering that. And when I say innovative, we were doing some research on for affordable housing, what could a different style of independent living look like that was all ground floor, walk up front door facilities. But anyway, listen to yourselves at that meeting. Your concern at the time was for family housing. So we took that on board. Of course, the housing needs survey for the town, which Castles and Coast instructed back in 22 and reported in 23, showed need across all households, all age ranges. So we could have stuck to our plans, but taking on board that was the need, because you felt at the time there had been a bit of overdevelopment. of older persons housing, and you weren't having any family homes coming forward. So we took that on board and developed what we would call a general needs scheme. So we've been on quite a journey since then, and there's no point in going through all of the history. I'm sure some of you are aware from different connections and networks around the room, but suffice to say, we had a planning application into the local authority back, I think, in the autumn of 23, and we withdrew it in June 24, May, June 24, because of very recently identified constraints that were not identified to us during the planning process. And we withdrew the application, principally reclassification of a woodland to the rear as ancient woodland, and the identification of a tree which was our primary access into a veteran tree. Neither of those we either could or nor we wanted to challenge through the planning process, so we withdrew that application. We're now left with a considerably reduced developable area because of the constraints of the site. And there are now 21, just 21 affordable homes on the land that we have under option. And I suppose I'm here tonight to say that I would like the Town Council to consider removing its objection to the planning application when the Castles and Coasts resubmit it. We will be resubmitting it imminently in the spring for the 21 homes. We will be submitting it for outline, for an outline planning approval to establish the principle. I would say I don't have, as a development area, there isn't much left for us to go at if this isn't successful. It's certainly, I think the association's shown goodwill in listening to the community and the feedback. We haven't been aggressive, we haven't challenged, we've taken on board all of the comments from the County Council without reservation. The only thing that we can't do, that the County Council would like us to do, is that the properties at the front of the road, they would like to see street frontage. We can't do that because we wouldn't have enough units to make the scheme viable, because there isn't enough width for the road, gardens, pavements, and to create the kind of living space. But what we have given a good deal of thought through the landscape architect, who's a really, really good landscape architect, is making sure that there's preservation of the tree street scene along the front. There's much of the original hedgerow, so that it's sort of seamless with as much as you can be, with it being new housing. You can't get away from that, along the boundary at the front of this site. I think there's not much else to know apart from the reduction. There is now on the scheme, there are 4 one-bed apartments. I think there are, let me get this right, we have in total 7, there's slightly different house types of those 7, but they're 2-bed homes, and we've 8 2-bed and 9 3-bed. We have lost our 4 beds, which is a real shame, but we just can't fit them in anymore, because they were I know they're of need across the county, and they will be in Hexham as well. The site's fully policy compliant, with good betterment in terms of open space, biodiversity net gain. What you can't see on this plan is there's in addition to the biodiversity net gain improvements to the landscaping of the entirety of the site, there's an additional amount over here as well that will be set aside. I think for the community, one thing you often get is a misunderstanding about in terms of biodiversity net gain and ecology, is that when we provide that area of betterment and we to replace both some of the brownfield ecology biodiversity that gets lost in development, when we provide that betterment, often that area then becomes restricted. So particularly certain areas won't be available for the general public because dog walkers, other uses of that site, it's not coterminous with letting the ecology that it's all been designed to flourish and human behaviour. So you tend to find that, you know, where at the moment there's limited use of dog walkers and so forth on the back, they need to come off so that that ecology can flourish and do what it's meant to be doing. But there's plenty of open space to the side of that scheme for sort of the community to sort of benefit from. All Energy A rated efficiency homes, castles and coasts have what we call a fabric first. So we spend all our money on floors, walls, ceilings to insulate as highly as possible. Then we spend our money on specification of doors and windows because these are the things that are expensive to retrofit. And what we do is all our house types are designed so that we can retrofit easily enough PV, air source heat pumps, batteries as we need to. But first of all, the money goes into the fabric of the building, so that's as energy airtight. So these will all be A-rated homes at the point of construction, but we also have an ability to make them even more energy efficient when budgets allow or when regulation changes, because that's really important for the community and for our board in terms of the priority. We have what we call, in terms of fabric first, we also look at cost and use. So there's easier ways we could achieve an A rating, but it's not necessarily affordable for our customers. Like all electricity options are still very expensive for our customers, so we do it. So we also look at what's genuinely going to cost to operate the home as well. So that's all built into the scheme. And I don't think there's much more to say. I'm happy to take questions. Obviously you'll debate it privately. Happy to take questions at any point. If we end up withdrawing from the scheme, there will be another housing provider or private developer that will look to build here. It's not going to go away. So at some point something will happen here. We could wait until 27 until things become easier with the new planning environment, and arguably Northumberland County Council might not have a 5-year supply with the new numbers, but you know, we're asking the board to maybe to take the decision to come back into planning now.
Thank you. Right. So we're clear. This is a presentation. It is not. We're not making any decisions in this meeting this evening, because as you know, well, just for clarity, myself and Councillor Fairless Aiken are both members of the Tynedale Local Area Council, which does planning and will be seeing this in time. So there's no decision to be asked, just be decided here. Any planning decisions obviously goes through the normal route, which is our planning and infrastructure committee. So just so everybody's clear on that. So I'll take Penny.
Yes, thank you very much. So I was at the last meeting that we had, and so I'd just like a bit of clarification about something. So you said 21 affordable houses. Is that an overarching term that includes social housing or not?
So at the moment this scheme is not a social rent scheme, it's an affordable rent scheme. Depending on we don't know what the new affordable homes programme will look like. We have currently modelled it on an affordable rent scheme, and you know, it may be that we need to change the tenure to social rent depending on what the new affordable homes programme looked like. Would have been much more achievable with 29 homes. It's getting quite tight for us to make that happen, for it to be financially viable to provide those affordable homes with just 21 homes.
Okay, can I just hurry up? There's a number of things I'd like to ask. One of the conversations that we did have last time was about the size of piping that you'll be using in the houses, so the retrofitting becomes much easier. That was just a reminder of a discussion that we had at some point.
Size of piping, sorry.
Yeah, because the last time we talked, there was the bore of pipe would meant that if someone was wanting to put heat source pump in or whatever, that they would have to repipe the whole house.
Oh right,
Yeah.
okay. The whole, as I said before, so whilst we might spend our money on insulation and specification, windows, doors, it's the house types have been designed. I led the project on these house types as well as the net zero work. So these house types are designed so that retrofitting is it's all built into the house types. The spaces in the roofs, the pipe and the electricity, what we call mechanical engineering, it's all designed so that that is affordable for us as a landlord to be able to retrofit that. It's already accommodated. We just might not have the money at the point that they are built to be able to do all of that. Putting PV on the roof we might be able to do. What we're really after is a battery, because then what tenants can do is that they can store that energy and use that at the time. So it really does become quite a cost saving for them when they've got, you know, when they've got more demand management rather than just when the sun shines. Yeah.
And my last point is just a sort of, it's just a point really, is that you're probably aware of the development that's happening at the middle school and the mix of houses there. So I was just wondering whether you'd had a look at that and that had in any way influenced what you decided to do, because we're looking at solving a housing crisis across the whole of the town as quickly as we possibly can. Really. So I was just, you don't have to answer that, it's just raising the point.
I've looked at every other development opportunity in Hexham that's been put forward to us. We've put forward bids, proposals for land, none of which have to be able to acquire sites. None of which has materialised. The middle school site specifically is too rich for a small housing association. It'll be a very expensive project to develop out. So I haven't looked at that one because I figure it's more achievable for the larger housing associations.
Yeah.
We're a small to middle size, and I don't know to what extent that will come off and what affordable housing. But every other site in the town. There's been the council site that I think you were talking about. I looked at that. We did a capacity plan for that. Looked at every other tract of land. We've looked at the bus station. Anything else that's been put towards me, I've worked with the team to have a look at what could we do on it. But none of it has actually come to fruition yet.
That isn't actually what I meant. Sorry, I meant that each development contributes to the overall capacity.
All right.
Housing capacity.
Yeah.
So it was whether
you could take another 10, 20 sites and you still haven't met your housing need. And it's difficult to ascertain it now because more of those that are in housing need in the town are moving away. But your housing need is so large on an annual basis that even if this came off the middle school site, the bus station site, some of the other, if they all came off in the same year, you still haven't met your housing need. So I think that, so that's that.
Okay. I'll just when you're going on about the sites, I've got Suzanne, Stephen, and the police station site. Have you done any thoughts of that one?
Yeah, so when Kim McGuinness was police commissioner, we contacted their office and said we were expression of interest, and we were told at the time that, forgive me if I'm wrong, carbon homes were in advanced discussions. If those discussions faltered, they would come back to us. But we did put in an expression of interest, said we'd like to look at it. I know that one will be exceptionally challenging because of the existing property. Access arrangements, meeting highways and other regulatory requirements will be quite tight. But at the time we were told that, I think it was carbon. If it wasn't carbon, it was home. But one of the two were looking at that and they were progressing quite well with it. That was easily 12 to 18 months ago. Yeah, easily.
That's changed a bit. Right, I'll bring in Suzanne. Yeah.
Thanks, hi Joe. Yes, I know you're a sort of genuinely affordable housing provider, not for profit, and I admire your patience with the planning system. In fact, you've been back a few times and you even did a housing needs survey after we fed back here that it wasn't for over 65s, and we weren't, happy. And then I went down and saw the mixed tenure that was the 60 homes, and then now obviously this has shrunk quite substantially. But I do like the green space there, and the saving of the trees is obviously important.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, just from a planning point of view, the 106 money on this, where is that going? And the path down to the Suds Pond, because there was talk of biodiverse planting down there, and you mentioned biodiverse net gain, which doesn't have to be on site, but there was a plan originally to make that pond quite planted with maybe, wildflowers and sustainable. We were part of that conversation, or certainly Space for Nature was with us. So so the 106 and the Suds Pond access and things, I'm quite interested to know a bit more about.
So the section 106, in terms of sort of contributions, there would only be because of the viability of the scheme and the grant levels, so there wouldn't be much additional. There won't be much additional. We'll only be looking to pay statutory section 106 because it's quite expensive to build the affordable housing that we are.
How much is that, please? How much is statutory 106?
It depends what the council asks for at the time, and what we will do is we share all of our sort of financial and business plans, so they can see what's viable and what's left over. This is a 100% affordable housing scheme. I would like to know where some of the other section 106 from some of the other schemes have gone, because as you know, sometimes affordable housing hasn't been delivered, but it's being spent elsewhere. But there won't be much additional section 106 monies from this scheme. The path down to the Suds, I think this is what I was talking about earlier. So any access path down to the Suds or the biodiversity area would be for maintenance. So we're happy to. I think it's quite a nice idea that we talked about previously with the groups or others in the area that are looking at sort of maintenance and an understanding of of sort of brownfield and how to foster and maintain and retain what that could be facilitated, but general amenity use couldn't be, so there'd be that kind of thing. At the bottom area, some of the habitat is quite interesting. So you've got a bit of fen, and it doesn't look like much to the eye, but it's quite, it's quite protected. So some of that has to be kind of protected. It's very rich in biodiversity. Looks like grass and ferns to most people, but it harbours quite a lot, contributes quite a lot. And some of that on this side. Thank you.
I thought your presentation was excellent, pragmatic. The thing about this land is it's going to be developed, and so we've got to choose the best scheme before it comes what's best for the people who are actually developing it. I think the County Council missed the chance with the whole of Corbridge Road in doing it piecemeal. I originally objected because I didn't want Hexham to become a hub for senior citizens, of which I'm one. So I haven't got very many friends. If there was another vote coming, I would vote for this, because I think you've genuinely listened to what we've said, taken notice, and the fact it's a good scheme, and pragmatically it's the way forward. Thank you.
Odd enough, on the police houses, actually used your 2022 survey data to respond to the developer there, so it's really useful information. So I've got three questions. So one of my questions is, in terms of, you broke down the sort of house prices in terms of, at the bottom end it's 138,000 for an average house, and at the middle end it's about 242. So have you got a mixture of the 138 and 242, or is it going one way or the other, or can you not say?
They're all affordable rent, which is based on they're not all affordable rent. I think we've got about 60% affordable rent at the moment. So that's based on market rents. Being honest with everybody, market rents. Housing associations can charge 80% of current market rents. And I don't know if you're familiar with what's happening with market rent across the region, but particularly in areas like Hexham, they're eye-wateringly expensive. So we have to have a valuation of the rental values, and we have to have a valuation of the open market at the point in time. It's both required for the board, but it's also required for government purposes as well, for the funding purposes. So at the point in time, it will be marketed then, whereas the housing needs survey data, obviously 23, and was aggregated from an average of what was available in the town. So so I know this is not a direct answer to your question, so bear with me. So that goes into kind of to be presented and approved by the board, who are finding it very difficult to sign that off at the moment because of the levels of rent, or the level of rent. So what we do at the time is we take on board a lot of feedback from our lettings and neighbourhoods colleagues, from other quarters, and then we start to say, right, where is it palatable? Some housing associations have a set percentage of affordable rent. So if you're, I don't know, let's put it in crude terms. So your rent is £1,000 a month. In theory, we could charge £800 a month. That's not affordable for what we are now looking at, a 2-bedroom small house. It's at that kind of level. So we say, well, we're trying to average it out, so it's a bit lower, and comes in around. We have a benchmark of a percentage of social rent and local housing allowance. So I guess what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way to say that there isn't a set criteria for us as a housing association. We look at each sort of circumstances slightly differently. We try to take into factor that it's an A-rated energy efficient home, so people will spend a lot less on their bills, but only if they know how to use it. And also the other aspect that we try to take into account is anything that we can do. So new build home, for example, there's no flooring in it. That costs tenants, customers £2,000 just to move in and so forth. So we look at those kind of things as well. So it's all at the point in time. Some of it's required by government, and a bit of it is the board's decision on where, and the executive team on where we charge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second question, I assume you know about the cycle track that's coming along on that
Yeah.
side, so that's already
Yeah.
built in. And then the third one, because I've done this myself, that you talked about solar panels and having a battery. I found that having the 3, so the air source heat pump, the cheap battery, so you can run your air source heat pump in the day for a cheaper cost, and the panels on. But are you saying you're going to allow retrofit, but you can't do that at the point of build?
Unlikely. We don't know what the new program is going to look like. I think it's unlikely we'll have batteries and air source in these to start with. We might have some PV, but as I say, the storage place is in place and they will be A-rated anyway. It's just an additionality, but I think that will come at a later time. I don't think they'll have them at the point of move-in, unless there's a bit of extra money to be available at the point in time we go for the ground. It's an aspiration. It's definitely an aspiration if we can afford it.
Okay, Ro?
Thanks for the presentation, really interesting. I remember talking about it last time. Since then, things have happened. So in Hexham, we've now got a project in its infancy, supported by a lot of community representatives, if you like, called Heating Hexham, and it's about clean energy infrastructure building within Hexham. We've got as far as getting funding for a feasibility study. Hexham Hospital is interested, Egham might be interested. There's a lot of talk going on at the moment at the right levels. I'm just wondering, out of interest, whether you know about this, and if not, whether you'd like some information on it. It's driven by Sycamore Net Zero, which is a non-profit organisation.
Definitely.
Okay,
I was sort of aware you were looking at something, but I didn't know you
I
were
just thought I'll get the right words out there, before I...
Yeah, no, that would be really interesting. So it's like a district-wide energy.
Like a district heating system, but
Yeah.
for Hexham as a prototype, if you like, that then could be rolled out elsewhere as well.
Yeah, no, that sounds brilliant. Yeah, we're very much interested in that. And I've just spoken to the housing provider. It's Carbon, isn't it, on the East Estate? Because they've got the bulk of the properties, so they will be a good,
Yeah.
But no, it'd be very interesting.
I'll send it.
Okay, well, thank you everybody, and thank you, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer any other questions as we go through the journey, and happy to look at any other slides. Thank you. Very much. Skedaddle.
Okay, so we'll go back to item number 6, which is which is minutes of the last meeting, to receive and sign as a true record the minutes of the full council meeting. Which was held on Monday the 13th of January. So if I just go through these, page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any, anything from them? Any questions?
Yeah, it just says update by end of January on the shambles. Have we got any news on that?
Yeah, no update. Then we've got a meeting scheduled for, is it next week?
So, yeah.
Yeah, for the stakeholders for the.
Yeah, certainly we were all anticipating that it would be early January, maybe middle of January, but it's rolled on a bit and got a little bit of pushing and prodding.
It sounds like they're keen to start at some point
Yeah.
in the spring once the process. Yeah, that would be making them aware that they really do need to link in Peter from the farmers market and the stakeholders and the businesses, because they seem to kind of leave them out and leave us to do the running back and telling people where they are, which is deeply frustrating.
Yeah.
But they, I mean, yes, they assured us last time that plans would be in place to how it would work to move store builders around as the car park's done first and then the shambles are done themselves. So they are aware, it's just they don't seem to include them in any of the updates. But hey, we are about to be updated.
Great.
Yeah. All right, so item number 8 is to receive presentation from Councillor Brennan on the progress of the Hexham Malls Town Initiative.
Thank you very much. So we've made good progress. We've had 3 meetings, public meetings so far at the library, and had 172 people come. So what I thought would be useful today is that we obviously want everybody to become ambassadors and for this scheme. So I was going to quickly do the presentation that I did at the meetings. It lasts 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And it's called a petchkucha. So it's got no writing other than that. But just so that we're aware everybody in the room is aware what we mean by an arts town. And then I'll give you a quick update. So this is assuming I know how to use Andrew's. Good. Thank you very much. Which one to go that way?
Go up.
Which way?
Just down.
Just down. All right. Okay, so can I go up? Okay, so what is an arts town? Thank you very much. So this is what I've said to all the people who came to these meetings. I propose that an arts town has arts at its core, meaning that the arts are reflected in the everyday life of the town and its residents, and that the town celebrates and builds on this. The evidence is that having arts town status shines a light on the town's unique qualities, which generates activity, more visitors, and attracts more money. So, interestingly, there are no arts towns in the UK. Scotland has 3 self-designated specialist towns. The first one is Wigtown Booktown. The next one is Kukubury Artists Town. And the next one is Castle Douglas, a food town. Newcastle and Gateshead have ambitions to become a music city, and since I put this presentation together, Sunderland has declared itself a music city. However, there are 100 arts towns in America. So looking at existing US arts towns, they all have most of the following, all or most of the following. They have cinema and film production, theatre, galleries, music, performance spaces, heritage buildings, public art, design spaces, events, participation, classes and workshops, other designed areas, crafts, markets, independent businesses, and the support of local government. Wigtown Booktown has received an Outstanding Business Award, and its Booktown status has a crucial part to play in boosting the local economy. In 2022, the government estimated that the creative industries added £126 billion in gross value to the economy and employed 2.4 million people. And creative industries and the arts have been proved to positively improve happiness and well-being. So that's the presentation that we did, and then Katie did a presentation about what's been going on in the town, which obviously we fund quite a lot of. So I think the point of this presentation is to make us think, have we got all those things that they have in the US of A? So what we've done is we've had the public meetings. We've also provided this, which I don't know if you can see because the lights are off, but basically I did a sort of mapping exercise where I thought of all the things that all the organisations, activities, anything I could think of which was related to the arts in Hexham. And this has been up in the library, and we've invited people to add to it, which they obviously have, because you know, people are involved in all sorts of things. So actually the town is mapping itself. And interestingly enough, there was somebody at one of the meetings who is a professor of sociology, and he says that he would like to take a look at this and look at the mapping and do a piece of research on the sorts of activities that go on in the town, which is perfect, because one of the key things about the arts town is that we want to involve as many people as possible. This is not a top-down initiative, this is about including everybody. So we're at the point now where the cultural partnership, which comprises, and Andrew, please tell me if I forget anybody, the Town Council, the Library, Hexham Community Partnership, the Queen's Hall, the Museum Service, Théâtre Sans Frontières, Core Music, the Book Festival, the cinema, the Abbey. At the moment. That's the cultural partnership. So they're the group of people who represent the cultural institutions of the town. We are now going out. So we've invited people to come to the library to talk to us. We're very well aware that not everybody wants to come to a meeting. Also, there's something about going through the doors of the Queen's Hall that some people find difficult. So we're going out. So next Sunday, I have a table in the tannery. So I will be talking to people in the tannery about the arts town. I do know that Claire Mwandi from the cinema has been to talk to the U3A. Katie and Sarah from TSF were going into the schools, but that's been postponed. Core Music, Paul was going to go and talk to the community centre. So what we want to do is we want to go out to people and go to those sorts of places where people don't normally gravitate to talk about arts, and talk to them about what the ambitions of the town are. And so something else that went on when we had these public meetings is the public meetings were absolutely not passive affairs. We did the short presentations and then people got into groups and they had 4 questions to answer, and all their ideas and comments were written down on post-it notes. And heaven only knows how many hundreds of them there are, but they are being compiled now. So like people's ideas, voices, thoughts about the idea about being an arts town are being recorded now so we can look at it. So we're trying as far as humanly possible to make this a whole town event, and it will develop. So once we've finished going into these places, you know, like the pubs and this, wherever people meet, then we'll say, well, okay, what are the gaps that we haven't, where haven't we been? Who do we need to reach? Obviously independent business are absolutely crucial in all this. And then we will have a case, if you like, because I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a consensus that the whole town can buy into, otherwise it will become a hollow label, and that must not happen. But I think that personally, looking at what's happened so far, the levels of arts activity, and that includes music and dance and crafts and garden design and paint, everything, the arts is huge in this town, with a couple of notable gaps. And one of those is that we do not have artist studios in this town. We used to have them, but we don't have them anymore. And we don't have available artist performance space that is not tied to, say, the Queen's Hall, which is very particular. It's a business. But I think one of the big strengths about this whole Arts Town initiative is that I think demonstrably it will bring money in. But as a key player, the town council, we actually already donate give quite a lot of money to support the arts in the town. So we will be able to do match funding. So we're an organisation that is not dependent on funding from outside. We have our own revenue coming in that we then choose to use in a particular way. And I think that's a huge strength. And one of the key things about the American towns is that they have civic or government, in inverted commas, small letters, support for the initiative. So there's mechanisms that actually can secure this idea of being an arts town and make it more sustainable than if, for example, the town council weren't involved, that it was predicated on lots of arts organisations that are very vulnerable to withdrawal of funding and changes in people's habits and all the rest of it. So I think, personally, obviously, I think this is a fantastic idea. I think it will help the town to prosper, but also the thing I'm really interested in, and this is entirely a personal point of view, is that it was an iterative process. We're not going to say, well, this is what we do and we don't do anymore. We will continue to develop, opportunities will come up, funding will come, visitors will come. They'll not just come, you know, from Penzance to see their favourite comic, which is what they're doing at the moment, but they'll go, well, we'll spend a couple of days because there's this, that and the other going on as well. And then it would also make us up our game. Hopefully there'll be some mechanism whereby we can list the things that people do in the town, because there's so much happening and there's nobody who knows everything that's happening. And so having a platform whereby people will can say, oh, well, on Thursday, no, actually on Tuesday at the Coach and Horses, there's a session which is run by Penny Grennan. So, you know, that sort of thing, that people know what's happening in the town and that it becomes a sort of prosperous cycle. And also it makes people have a broader understanding of what the arts are, because for lots of reasons that won't rehearse here, I think the arts have become are perceived as being rarefied, and that they are the province of other people, whereas everybody listens to radio, listens to music, you know, goes to the pictures, you know, I don't know, does flower arranging. Once everybody engages with the arts in some way or other, but they don't see it like that. And I think that there's a big conversation to be had around that, and I think it would be to the town's benefit to do that. So that's all I'd like to say. Has anybody got any questions?
I was at the first meeting and it was amazing, actually, wasn't it? I mean, you must have been absolutely bowled over by, and just the enthusiasm of everyone there. It was fantastic. Number 28, you didn't mention. I assume someone's going in there because they're sort of really hard to read people, aren't they? So that would be fantastic. And in terms of artist studios, I assume you mean recording artists, or because there's the pottery studio, is there not? So there are sort of crafts people doing.
Yeah, so studios that people can rent. So there were at the art. There were some in the Queen's Hall, and then the rent went up so much that they had to leave. I ran an art space in Abbeygate House for 2 years, so we had artist studios and exhibition and workshop spaces in there, but it only lasted for 2 years. But because of the lease arrangements. So there is nowhere, a bit like everything about the Hearth at Horsley, there's places where people can go and rent a place to work rather than having to all find private spaces.
Right, yeah, okay.
So there has been that in existence before, and there isn't that now.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Penny. I went to one of your presentations. You and your team, I thought, was first class. A couple of things that I'm mentioning, and some of you may smile when I say it, but I see this more as a movement, an arts movement as such. When we say we was given status, it's very difficult, it's quite nebulous to structure. Do we want a bank account? Do we do this, that, that? I think generally it's a movement. And the activities that you talk about are absolutely key to it, that other people fund it. It'll be very limited in its first instance, perhaps the county council supporting activities at Hexham Youth Initiative, or the town council, or the mayor of the North East. So I see it in that form. It's a celebration for me, celebration of already exists, and then you build on that. So one of the roles that I saw the town council doing is not just seed corn funding it, but actually promoting it and actually marketing it and celebrating it. But there's so much activity going on in the town. That's why we enjoy living here. That's why it acclaimed wherever you go, when you say, oh, it's a lovely place to live. I think we should expand on that and celebrate it from there, but well done in the initial phase.
Well, thank you, and I'll pass your thanks on, because it's obviously a team effort. But one of the things that I think is really important, which is what the map shows, is that whether we do this or not, people will continue to do this. So it's not dependent on the failure or success of this initiative, it's already happening. People will meet together and do things together, whatever that might be, whether we're here or not, actually. And I think this is the foundational stuff that is really, really important. And if we choose to define it in a way that doesn't suit the town, then the town will just carry on without us. So it's got to be this process where we're talking to each other. But Andrew put together a document early on, which I'm not going to read to you, but it's got some interesting headlines about framing what an arts town is. So it says it's the core principles, so creativity as a scene setter. And I think Andrew's great example is that if we're having a new playground, for example, which we talked about at the last meeting, then actually why don't we incorporate things that make noises, like instruments, or it's decorated in a particular way, or make it more, have the arts as an integral, a bit like we do with planning. We have a checklist, don't we, that says, well, if we're going to agree a planning application, it's got to be sustainable, etc., etc. So it was like creativity is a scene setter, celebrating civic life, inclusivity and diversity, educational engagement, economic vitality, performance, and activating the wider economy. So I mean, there's various headings, and this is a document in the making, but basically it's about embedding. I think that's the point, so that you embed arts. It becomes one of those filters that we as a public institution use in the way that we do with sustainability.
Back in the 1990s, I've been involved in something called City Challenge, and they had a percent for art in everything that was produced. It got squeezed at the end when they run out of money. But is that something you're looking to adapt through different, whether it's a housing scheme or anything at all that needs planning permission, there's a % for our.
Well, that would obviously be up, that's not within my
I know,
but yeah.
just as a concept.
I mean, the difficulty is that everything is so squeezed that I would hesitate to say that if it might be a percentage for sport, and it might be deemed that percentage for sport is more socially beneficial in that particular instance. But a percentage for something, I do.
But it did allow where I was loads of public arts.
Yes.
And it generated all that interest. That filtered outwards as well.
Susan?
Oh yeah, thanks Penny. Yes, I went along to the same meeting as Stephen, the final one, and it was incredibly well populated and organised. We did have that conversation at the table, and the knowledge around the table, there was a publisher, there was a musician, there was a writer. It was like, and it was just having the conversation with those people was really important. I didn't go along as a counsellor, I went along in my role as a poetry publisher, and it was interesting because what I like about this is that it is from the bottom up, and it is kind of self-appointed almost in a way. As Stephen said before, that do we just put the sign up because we are that? It is all there. Because often what happens is that someone comes along and goes, that's a city of culture, here's the money. Whereas this is working the other way around. It's not the tail wagging the dog, it's kind of us saying it's already here, please come and have a look. And I really do believe very much in the power of cultural capital. It's huge, it's much more than the government put in, certainly at the moment. And it's not just about the money, it's about everything to do with culture that brings communities together. It's a great leveller, and if it's used cleverly, it kind of cements who we are as humans, really, in Hexham, and I love it. I think the conversations we had at that meeting were really spot on. They affirmed everything I believe about the arts, so all credit to you, and I love the idea of this map. I'd just like to know where the meeting is at the tannery.
It's next Sunday,
Right.
5:30.
Okay, thank you.
And I will be there.
Can I ask a question? So,
Yes,
so do we want to power this forward and start labelling the town as town?
Not yet. And I think it's really critical that we don't. I mean, we are moving at pace when you think about that first meeting that I think there was 2 or 3 days notice really in terms of all the publicity going. It was pretty short notice and people came. So there's an appetite there. So we want to actually capitalise on the fact that people are interested, they're talking about it. People talk about it, to me in the street. We want to capitalise on that, but we don't want to hurry it on and make a mistake, i.e. that there'll be some sector that we haven't looked at or that we miss a trick because we're rushing along. So I think, and it needs to be a coordinated thing, because there are those 10 cultural organisations who are at the table. So we work incredibly well together, but that needs to be decided, right, when are you ready? The Queen's Hall has brought data to this conversation that we certainly don't have, because we don't know where people buy their tickets. There's all sorts of information that underpins this that we've got to make sure that we've got access to. But Andrew, am I right in thinking at some point, not in the not too distant future, was an application for some money?
Yeah, we put some money in for the Lottery Partnership Fund. Yeah.
So to do what?
Well, what we decided.
What we decided.
The partnership is coming together again tomorrow, and the next steps to be formulated from that meeting tomorrow. So it depends largely what the next steps are looking at like being, and depending on those, then we can seek external funding accordingly.
Right. So I don't think it's going to be a long time, but I think we just have to make sure that we're all on the same timetable and for the same reasons.
So I was just wondering if, like things like even just signage, like where we've got the Hexham entry signs with the town twinning mentioned underneath there as well as North's town.
Yeah, but I think we have to wait because imagine the major point about this is that these discussions went on 15 years ago and there was no arts towns in the UK, and there still aren't.
Yeah.
So shh. But you know what a cachet that would be. So we've got to do it. We've got to do it right, and a big fanfare across the whole of the town, which brings the whole town together. And how that happens is obviously up for conversation. You know, it'd be great to have a day's launch of of the arts town and have all sorts of things going on. But that takes organising, obviously. So it depends, but it won't be long. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, I don't see why. But also, the other thing that's important is that we don't have to go to any esteemed body and ask permission. So there is nobody who would designate or agree that we could designate ourselves as an arts town. It's self-designation. And it's not because we're dodging some system. There is no system for it. So Kirkcudbright has been an arts town since the beginning of the 19th century because it was colonised by artists. Castle Douglas has 50 independent food shops and a population of something like 4,000 or something. So that's what they decided. So the fact that we bring the town with us, if you like, the town is the designating body, and I think that's really important.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Oh, Tom?
Sorry, question. So I just want to congratulate you as well. It sounds wonderful. It sounds like you're really doing a good job. Just one question. You mentioned that we don't have any performance areas in the town. I just thought, well, we've got quite a few. We've got the Queen's Hall, we've got the bandstand, and I don't know, some other areas as well. What do you mean by performance areas?
So what I meant was sort of independent ones. So if I wanted to do a gig at the Queen's Hall, I would have to pay quite a large amount of money to rent that space. I think the Hartford Horsley is quite a good example because it's an old church and then it's got the church hall, and so people have all their, and then they put gigs on in there, and so they're self-managing and people can, I don't know if it's an arts cooperative or collective, I don't know, but it's that feel about it, and that's what we don't have. I mean, we have a lot of spaces that people can hire to do performances, and we do actually. We're quite rich in those, but that's not quite the same as it being like a bit like an arts centre that isn't, which is populated by artists. Our arts centre, this is not being rude about the arts centre, but our arts centre is a theatre where predominant, mainly, and they have lots of other things going on, but it's a different feel to it. So lots of towns do have much more like driven by artists community. So I think that's the distinction really.
There you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Right, so the next item is an update on Hexham's potential development sites. Any news on Hexham?
Not the ones that are there, I think not since the last meeting.
Nothing.
Apart from the bunker,
Yes.
which isn't on there, but...
Right, well, we'll do that at the end, yeah. Old bus station, I don't think we've heard anything in addition on that. Toilets, anything?
There's been a request for the Town Council to look at the bus shelters that are on the site.
Oh, yes, we spoke about them.
So that's all.
Yeah.
So do you want us to ask Vice that out the
Yeah.
We have a new bus ambassador.
actually get
We need to pull them along.
Anything on toilets? West Road, well, we spoke with Jo there, and she gave a little bit of an update on that, not much that they had inquired about the site, but nothing on that. Police houses, well, we've been contacted by the developer, what was he?
just like
The architect.
the architect, really.
The architect, he's sort of...
More a feasibility study, isn't it?
Yeah. So the P&I met, was it last week? Right, last week, yeah. Do you want to just give a quick brief on that one?
Yeah, so P&I met and we used the figures that the Castle and Coast gave us for housing numbers. So we agree that I think that the topmost housing is 2 to 3 bedroom affordable housing. So I've got some words around that, and I think Derek rightly pointed out that when they do develop it, they should consider access for school kids to walk through the area. So I'll put some words together. There's a couple of amendments I need to make, and then I'll send it back to you, Andrew, and then you can.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. So what the suggestion is that it should come off. See a footpath link between the bottom of Tynedale Terrace, so you cut through Fairfield. There's a severing fence, and I presume it's for security reasons for those houses when there were police and the whole thing. Is whether that fence could come down in some sort of walkway, which would mean that children could essentially, instead of going up the Albion Road, is actually go along by the Fox, cross over, and then walk through the Fairfield estate, through the Tynedale Terrace and then up.
I think it was social housing rather than affordable that we said.
So
There is a difference.
I think it's entirely there. Government guidance on passive housing and renewable installations.
So yes, so the town council's put its voice to its thoughts on that one. That's good. Old workhouse.
Work we expected, May.
May.
Update.
Shambles.
We just had that, so we've got a meeting.
Hexham. I've done Hexham booking for ages.
A month, not just last summer, before last summer.
Was it? Cycle path?
No, I think it's
So
just-
it's
Well, there's not been on their side, to be fair.
It's going to happen, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's all there. It's all in the planning and the TROs that were all there, so it just needs to start. I'm sure you know about it.
Yeah. Railway buildings and water tower.
I've noticed all Paris fencing's gone up around it recently, but that could be because it looks like the water tower's not very secure.
No, not at all. Not at all. And the West End Methodist, obviously we've spoken about that and we're in close contact with them. So the last service is at Easter, but it will be still held as an events centre. Maybe something to think about, Penny, with the arts.
Sorry, it's just another building that I keep thinking we should add, the Abbey Clinic. What on earth? I mean, what a waste.
That's privately owned.
Is it still privately owned?
Privately owned and what have you.
I think Councillor Sesford knows more about that. There's legal issues with the Abbey, that's all I know.
Right.
I think the one I was going to suggest that's missing from here is the old debating chamber at Hexham. Prospect House. Yeah. So if I remember rightly, I'm desperately trying to remember who actually told us.
Was it last meeting?
Was
it's been brought up, administration.
It has.
Yeah.
Good,
There's been people on the site.
Fine. So maybe could you add that to the list? So that's good because those are 95% there and the bid can be brought just to finalise those and goodness me.
They're on the market, haven't they? There's hot tea on the table and
people had put deposits down and all sorts of stuff, so they're really staggering. Mayor's announcements, I haven't really got much to announce, so nothing to do. What? Oh yeah, the mugger, yes. Come and add the mugger to the list as well. So mugger,
Yay! Okay. It's quite threatening, isn't it?
So just tell them what mugger is, just to remind everyone.
The multi-use games area is about to go ahead. We discussed it, we were keen to sort of chip in and help as long as it was for community use, and that has been agreed now, and there's buy-in from other partners including WeCan, Hexham First School, number 28 will all get free use of the facility. The idea is that it will be open through the holidays and weekends for the community, for the children of Hexham, unless it's booked out. But on the whole, in the holidays, there's not that expectation that it will be so booked out. The bookings will tend to be sort of local clubs who pay for use, and that will go into the sinking fund to replace the pitch in about 10 to 15 years, depending on how long it lasts. So after a struggle with planning, as always, highways, parking issues and lighting, that we've now got down to a community use agreement to switch off at certain times and to switch off when it's not being used, and is dark skies friendly and angled down, so that's all great. The Football Federation put us in their second round for it to go forward, so this was meant to go forward last summer. And because of difficulties with it being the first school site, with it being part of the Priory site, even though it's owned by NCC, there were conditions around that which made it tricky, so we've had to bump it to this summer's round. But it's going through now. The Football Federation have finally facilitated the last few pushes. We've got a meeting end of next week or the week after to sign off on various agreements. So the Priory are signing off on the gating and the fencing, because there's security issues with the school, and we are hopefully going to sign off about the clearing of it like we would a play area, because it's going to be seen as an extension of the Rocket Park play area. There will be bins put in and seats put in and a locker, and the Priory will take over the bookings, and there will be codes issued to partners in the community and people who want to use it to get in. It is what it is. It's designed for netball, football and basketball. And this is the other picture I have of it. Obviously it's not the one in the site, but this is kind of what it's going to look like. And it's got access from 2 points, one through the school and one through the front, and the maintenance section as well. So it's very exciting. We've got to name it. So I'm hoping, because it's next to the school, I don't want any confusion that it is a community unit. And so I would really quite like permission to kind of go forward with it to be called Hexham Community Play Zone. They've got signs, so it's quite simple. So we can have Community Play Zone Hexham East, or we could have Hexham Community Play Zone. Thoughts and questions? Thanks.
Okay, yeah, that's good. If you call it Hexham Community Play Zone, it sounds like Hexham only has one ever of the play zones, and it's in East and West. Everything has been decimated since the fences have gone up around St Joe's, since the new school's been built. Where do our young people go for exercise without having to book? I mean, that is a brilliant place, but we need something like that elsewhere. So if you call it Hexham Play Zone, it's too generic.
What would you like it? It's got to have Play Zone on it, does that feel right?
Sure. I mean, whether it has the name of the street or East or whatever in it, I think it needs to be attached to the zone it's in.
Steve?
Well, no matter how difficult this is, so he's done really well sticking to it. A lot of people have given up.
I think Edie has been amazing, to be fair.
Who actually owns the land?
NCC.
And is it leased to
The Priory.
the Priory?
Yes, somewhere.
And the town council's involvement is what?
Our town council involvement was down to just clearing it, keeping it clean and neat like we would a play area, is the idea there. So there will be a bin, and we've got to keep it as clean as possible, because I don't want the Priory kind of, calling that into account, because they don't want to find glass and stuff as they let children through in the morning, so we've really got to keep on top of that. And I'm hoping that actually just by giving, as you say, a great public space that's much needed, then the people will have pride in it and look after it. I mean, I'd love the units at the QE to be opened. I've asked them twice to open those tennis courts, and I will keep pushing on that, because it is part of the planning agreement, and I will take it back to the new bookings manager, who seems a bit more open-minded about community space. I won't name him, but he's quite keen to work with us on that. So But this is, I don't want this to be seen as a school add-on. I want it to be open. There will be hopefully a notice board next to the play zone of stuff that's going on, and a QR code that you scan to be able to get in on weekends and
So the
some
caretaker
holidays.
will manage it, will he?
The caretaker will manage locking the gates on their side,
Yeah.
but other than that, it will be our unit. They're going to, they have a booking system for it that runs through the school that puts the money in where it's being used by private sports companies that will go into the fund to replace it. That's all it will be. They're delighted to get this space usable as the school for the children as well. And they're keen to share the space with the other schools and the community groups in the facility. They've already talked to Tanga and WeCan and people, so they're keen for the buy-in.
Well done.
Can I suggest, everybody knows it's Hexham, so I think that might be a bit redundant. And I think that if you put east, then it makes it sound like only people from the east can use it. So I would call it a town play zone. And then that means it's for the town. And then it's just...
Well, I was going to suggest that just with it being the locality, just call it the Hexham Corbridge Road play zone, or just the Corbridge Road play
Or
zone.
just community plaza.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's then you're saying there's no other one coming. You're saying that's the only one.
No, just call it community plaza.
That's the rocket pair.
The rocket plaza.
Yeah, and then everybody gets confused as to whether it's
Yes, so the works won't start. Yes, so yes.
Yeah, there you go, there's an idea.
What's
I think
that?
Andrew said
It is the play park right next to it. Well, probably not officially called this, but we call it the Rocket Park. So why not call it the Rocket Play Zone?
Rocket
I
Park.
do like that.
That might
Sounds
be
good.
I'll run them past Kathy and the team next week at the meeting because they were keen on suggestions from us all. So I'll say all those and I'll feedback and then we'll see what fits on the side. But I like the idea of the rocket play park, definitely. It's kind of welcoming, isn't it?
Are you invoking God?
Hand up to our building. I think it was.
Of course, you can answer.
So you mentioned the summer. Is the summer when it's going to get final sign off, or is that?
No, that's when it's going to be built. They've got to build during some holidays. That's a condition of the school.
So it'll be ready for use in sort of September time?
Yes, so it's 10 weeks, so it'll be slightly longer
Yes,
the
yes.
term. So it's halfway through July is the planned start date, and it will go into September, but the school don't mind it being that way round, and there's normally using the back end of the July too, so they want it that way. So we'll hopefully be finished by the end of September.
Really good. Yeah, I think well done, because I've been involved in some of the things. I couldn't go to the last one, but it did feel as though it was like slipping away for a long time. So well done. I was quite surprised.
She's tenacious.
Yeah, she is. Brilliant. But if it operates like the paddle court, Stephen, it's all up. So you just use apps and you pay through apps, and you book through apps, and the gate opens and you give them the code, and you just type the code in, and then you go. It's absolutely amazing. The lights come on. So.
Yeah.
But then in the holidays, you don't have any
In the holidays it'll be open access.
so no apps and no...
So no looking.
Right. That's very, very good. Very good. That's really good. Probably worth sticking Mugger on this list for until it's implemented.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Right. So we're to agree accounts for stock payment number 11. Is there any questions on this? Oh. No. That's just a moment. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I'm just reminded. Yes. So remember, it is the 25th
Mayor's reception.
is the community leaders and volunteers night at the Beaumont Hotel, where we celebrate those volunteers and community leaders who do a fantastic job Hexham. You know, we really honour them for all the efforts they do and how much they put into this town. And, you know, a lot of people who do an awful lot for nothing make this town the success that it is. So always good to have that conversation with them. We'll be doing the bailiff and steward aboard, and it's a fantastic evening for the good people to network as well. You know, and really get those linkages together. So that's good. So town twinning, the French is join us from June 6th to the 9th. If anybody's interested in hosting or doing anything with that, please contact Town Twinning. Good to see our French colleagues again. Right, so to agree accounts for payments, so you've got all your accounts for payment here. I was going to ask Andrew, has the Community Partnership sent us the bill yet?
Yes.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Good. Anything from anybody? Page 1, page 2, any questions? Page 3. Listings of payments in each code for all cost centres. Okay, everybody okay? Good. Right, to note the approved minutes of committee meetings. So we have finance general purposes of 17 December, page 1, page 2, anything to say?
No.
That one? Planning and infrastructure from 19 December, page 1, page 2, page 3, 4, 5. Mike, anything to highlight? No. Minutes of the cemetery subcommittee of 7 January, page 1, page 2, anything to?
Nope.
Okay. And community engagement committee of 27 November.
Can I just ask a question about that?
Page
It's
1.
it's the old, same old really. I just want, as a point of clarification. So it says at the bottom of page 1, the budget position was noted. It was agreed the following would comprise the community engagement budget, and Grow Hexham is in there. Now I understand that Grow Hexham is in there because the money comes into the budget and then it goes out again. But I mainly because of Trevor Sesford's belligerent stance on the fact that it looked like we were paying for Grow Hexham and it was entirely self-funded. So I don't know how we disaggregated them.
Well, Grow Hexham's going to be a separate, you know, we talked about having earmarked reserves within the budget, so Grow Hexham will be an earmarked reserve with its total finances that it's had historically and the grants that's come in this year, and any payments going in and out of that account will be accounted for separately.
Yes, so I know that, but I just wonder how it's represented, only because...
Well, it won't come under C finances in the future.
Oh, okay.
It'll just be its own standalone earmarked reserve.
All right, yes, thank you.
Will it be in the accounts though?
Oh yeah. It's still town council money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Okay, thank you.
Good. And item 13 to note the correspondence receipt.
Just the usual NALKI news and the executive bulletins, Canny news, CDA and Christmas.
Good.
Question.
Yes.
Well, I don't think we've had any correspondence, but I noticed around the town we've been getting on the pavement there's like stubbits and binnets. Have you seen the paint been on there? But even on the new pavement we've got on the obviously got a national bottom on it, it's there as well. And it looks not very nice.
I can have an update on that. Am I allowed? Yes, so I was going to go to it today. That was agreed with Trevor and myself, because it's a county council campaign called Bin the Butt. And Morpeth was the first town to run it, and we are the second town. So with the county councillors and the Hexham Wobbles, we identified hotspots in town, because it's been the bane of my existence, on the new high streets, that those cigarettes were dropped, and we have to call out the street sweeper, and then they get in the cracks and everything. It's awful. So the key sites were the hospital, areas of Peace Popple, area outside Spoons, the tannery, and other people are wanting to now sign up, which is amazing. So I'm going around this week with posters. So it's, and I'm going to be interviewed by Pete tomorrow about it. They have just appeared because it was magically done on Friday, and I went around with them to make sure they did the right areas. And it was okayed by everyone, and they seem to be on board with it. They wash off within a month. So they will be resprayed, and people might want to add to that as well. I know 2 businesses have already asked me, can they be added to the campaign because they're fed up with it. We've got stickers for bins, posters for windows, bin the butt because it gets in watercourses, as we know, it kills wildlife. It's horrible, and we'd rather spray the pavement. That was the decision that was taken, to make people notice, then they just forgetfully drop a butt on all of the new pavements, which drives me crackers.
Yeah, no,
So that's the reason, but they are only in 5 places at the moment.
Where do you sign up?
Where do you sign up? Here. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's a county council project, and the woman who runs it is incredible, and the man who sprayed the stencils was incredibly neat. And he said, well, I think where they'd done some of it in Morpeth, they'd had a mixed response at times. But in Hexham, people came over. It was really incredible, and we had making puns about it, and they seemed to be interested and keen. I don't know how it went down at the weekend, because it was ahead of the weekend. You know, that's quite a party street. So I'll be interested to see if it's had any effect so far. But we're hoping to get some buckets with sand for the businesses with the stickers on the side, because apparently that is another game changer. People know to stuff it out, and I think people are sometimes frightened of putting it in the bins, even though they're designed for that. So it's getting the message across to people that they really need to be using the bins, or the ones provided by the businesses, not the pavements, and not our planters, because they're in all of the planters as well. So anyway, that's where it's at. But yeah, they look at the bins, but they will wash off, I promise you, else I wouldn't have had them.
I'm very pleased to wash off. I think this is a matter of breaking people's habits as well. And once they stop doing it and then start putting the bin, I think you'll hopefully keep that.
Well, that's the idea. When they're standing there, kind of, you know, chilling, they are very eye-catching. You can't miss them. So that's the idea. And then we ran it past the Hussars team as well, who were, but it's okay.
Good. Any more going on?
I've just got a couple. I think it might have been a throwaway comment, but your concept of the West End Methodist being an arts for the hub for the arts is absolutely fantastic.
Thanks, Steve.
Sorry, I just think you need a brain to continue it and push it forward. But I think that's a really good concept, because they said at the last meeting they were willing to almost discount it for community use, and that would fit in perfectly, and everybody knows where it is. So I think that's something that me and others might want to pursue. The second one's a little bit more negative, about the closing of 2 banks in Hexham. It's quite scandalous. The town council's position is slightly, I think, vulnerable, because we chose to take something off the high street and did it with internet banking. I don't want to open up the wound, because that was a decision taken at the time for the right or wrong reasons, but it left us vulnerable about not supporting banks in the town. And if we join the petition and all that, I think it may well be used as a stick to beat us in the future.
Yes, I would agree. But I think, I mean, my view, I mean, the journalists were asking me what my thoughts were, and I'm pretty vehement about all this, because I just think, you know, it was us, the taxpayer, who saved Lloyds. You know, all those years ago when there was a big financial crash in 2008, and Lloyds was sort of rescued for many years, and it was only the last 5 years or something like that it became public again, private again from being publicly owned by the taxpayer for about 50% or whatever it was. And I was having a look at how much profits they're making. You know, the profits they're making, like, it's like several billion a year. You know, so this is it's quite obvious that it's a cost-saving measure. I personally, I think it's time governments stepped in, and even if it's a case of like there's multiple banks on the high street, and the multiple banks are going like look, we're just not getting the footfall through. Is why can't there be a combined function, a bank that can consume, that all the other banks contribute to, so there's a single, say, banking facility where people can go in and bank with the various banks, but they don't all need to have, like, you know, you don't need 5 banks on the high street, you just need one. And I know they'll keep saying, oh, that's the post office, but you're like, yeah, but the post office does, we've got the smallest post office ever, and it does huge amounts of like traffic with like people mailing things and doing that online sales and stuff. And you know, if you go to the post office, you can be standing in a queue for ages, and if you just want to do some simple transactions, it's not necessarily the best there, and that's not the post office's fault. It was never designed for that. So I do think government, you know, like, I think it's more than just a Hexham problem. This is a national problem, and it really is. Because to me, it's like, I mean, banking apps are fantastic. They're so efficient and everything else, but you are excluding huge swathes of society in that. You know, like I say, I just look at my mum and think like, well, she wouldn't know what would do anything like that. You know, she's a physical, you know, does all of his stuff physically at the bank. And again, my son being special needs, there's no way he could do banking apps and stuff if he ever needed to do that. And I just think you can see why it's hugely efficient to do it, but the exclusion element to me is really the one that really pains me, you know, with all of this. I just think it's really sad.
I think that's. I mean, I absolutely agree with Derek,
Yeah.
and I take Stephen's point as well. And I think that it's going to happen. So instead of pushing back on something that we have absolutely no influence over, I think that we have to say, if this is the way that it's going, then whatever happened to the service to the customer. And I mean, there is a facility down at the Wentworth, but you can't pay money in. You know, it's so limited. And so I don't understand why it is not in the bank's interest to work together, even if it was like, you know, Barclays on a Monday and Lloyds on a Tuesday or whatever it was, because their costs, and then they pooled the cost of the rent. So I mean, I think it might be time for us, instead of the petition is, you know, is absolutely fair enough, but I wonder whether it's time to come up with an alternative which is sort of patently, you know, achievable, cheap, and will take the pressure off them. That might come to nothing, but it's certainly worth a try, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, see what the petition is, but I mean, it's just like saying, oh, Lloyds don't go. You think, well, yeah, but Lloyds have said they'll go, so it's kind of, but it's not, that's not a solution. The solution appears to be something else. You know, I don't think it's very creative, just doing that petition saying, like, oh, Lloyds don't go, when I said they'll go, and it's like, yeah, it's all like horse and boulder type of stuff. I just think it's like trying to come up with creative solutions to go, like, can the banks come up with like a combined facility where you can actually channel all this through and pay your Santander or pay your Lloyds.
There is that's I was going to say, government are talking about banking hubs already, so
I think there are some use already.
yeah.
And you
Which
can
is
actually-
exactly what
Yeah,
you're
like,
saying.
I checked online the other night actually, because like you said, the Barclays one feels almost a point wasteless, doesn't it? Pointless if you can't pay in cash or take it out, whereas at the banking hubs, apparently they do have a facility, something like safe, so you can actually pay cash in and take it out. But you can't go down that line until there's no banks in it.
Then what was your point that you will keep raising
About cash?
Yeah.
Because shops are often, well, like I often get asked in the shop if we accept cash.
Yes.
So I feel like people shouldn't need to ask that question, which is why we're going down the line of the getting cash-friendly stickers to put in shop windows, so that people know that they can use it. Something else that I heard the other day about places that do still have cash machines is encouraging people to use them. So whether you use much cash or not, just go and like take a tenner out and use the cash machine, because then that gets registered as a usage and it shows that the cash machines are being used, and then yours might not be the next one to get closed.
Oh yeah.
So we all need to start taking
Yeah. John?
I think gone are the days when banks actually served the community. Where you had a friendly bank manager, you could go along and say, I've got a business idea, would you talk it through and help me and do this, that and the other, and they actually served the community. And that's gone now, where the community is irrelevant to the banks, who sadly Lloyds and the other big banks invest in fossil fuels, armaments. The whole war machinery is funded by these banks. And, I'm getting into a political area I don't want to get into, but I can remember, it must be about 10 years ago now, there was a community bank set up here. It was set up to fight the loan sharks and the Wongas of the world.
It still exists, yes, at
Does it?
number 28, yeah.
Oh, it's at
Number
28 now.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know what function it serves now. I know when it was first set up, there were more people willing to save with it than there were people who wanted to borrow. Could they?
Well, they're just low sums, you see. They're just dealing with very low sums.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
But can you pay money into it?
Well,
I think it'd be good to have somebody along to talk about it actually, because it's an aspect of the community that
But you probably
we
couldn't
should
pay,
be.
you'd have to be a bank.
Yeah, but I think it's more clear. Remember, when you used to be at school, you could put, I think it's just a bigger version of that. To be honest, I don't think it's anything. It's not substantial in that you can put like lots of money in and lots of money out. It's not a full facility bank.
Well, actually, I'm talking to Grace about something else soon, number 28, so I'll ask her about it and I'll let everybody know.
Yeah, very good. Right, very good. All
Thank
good.
you.
Good.